You can stand here, you can just
pass out some tracts?
yes.
All right, one more time. God bless you is
Mungu akubariki.
Mungu or Mungo?
Mungu
Mungu aki
akubariki.
Mungu akubariki.
Go and talk to the police.
Mungu, those are
Policemen.
security. They're soldiers.
No, sorry, policemen.
Oh, they're actual policemen?
Yes.
Oh, let's go talk to them. Let's go. Are you comfortable with that?
You can go, no problem.
Huh? Will,
No problem.
will they speak English?
Yes, they usually speak English. They usually speak. You have one for the police. Oh, yes.
Hello. God bless you. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
I was a police officer in California
Yeah.
for many years. How long have you served?
Me, I'm served 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
And how about you?
8 years.
8 years. Okay, so veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I served for 20 years before I retired.
20 years.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
How is your job there?
Well, like the job here, very busy. Right, on any given night or day, you don't know what's going to happen. You know, you get a call and you think it's going to be one thing and it becomes another, right? So I think the job is the same everywhere, but some places are quieter than others. But the job is dangerous no matter where you go, right? Yeah.
You cannot, it's not the same as in Kenya. Only it's somehow different. In Kenya there is some area that there is hardship.
I'm sorry.
There is hardship some area.
Oh, sure, yes. Yes, no doubt, I'm sure of that, yeah. What is the hardest part of policing in Kenya?
And there's bad.
Yeah. What's the most difficult part of policing, to be a police officer in Kenya?
It's hard. For me, nothing is hard.
Nothing is hard
According to training.
because of your training. Okay. Yeah, well, the better the training, the easier the job. Sure. Certainly. My name is Tony, by the way. And you are?
Mine is James.
James?
Yeah.
James and
James.
James?
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be easy for me to remember.
That will be wonderful.
Yes. Do you men have any particular spiritual beliefs? What are your thoughts about God? I was a police officer, but now I serve my church as an evangelist back in the United States, and we're here working with churches for the next couple of weeks. But what are your thoughts about God?
It's not very hard. So that even this one, if I get the better one, I can quit even this one. You know, in Kenya, the police work is very hard.
Yes.
There are a lot of challenges, housing. So, and the mode of payment is very poor because we did a lot of work, but the salary is
very low. Yes.
When you compare to other civil servants, we are the one who are being paid poor.
Yes, I think the police should be the highest.
Yeah. So we get another well condition, which is paying well. You can quit a day.
Yeah. So the work is. Would it be better if my friend translated for us? Would you be more comfortable talking in Swahili, or would that be better for you? 'Cause I don't know Swahili. I wish I did. I know just enough to get me into trouble, and so.
What is your question?
Well, my question is what are your thoughts about God? What are your beliefs about God?
What is there?
God is there.
It's a supernatural power.
That I agree with both of that.
Nothing else about God. It's something that it's something that you cannot explain. being. It's just something that they exist in spiritual ways.
Do you think a person can know God?
A person?
Yeah. Do you think you or I can know God?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Because you are doing good things. Those are things that are related to God.
Okay. So your job is dangerous. My job was dangerous. The most important thing when I was a police officer was making sure that me and my partners went home at night. That was the most important thing. I would handle my calls, I would do my job, but in the end of the day, what mattered most was that me and my partners, me and my fellow officers, made it home, no matter what. That was number one.
It was first objective.
First objective, right. Be safe, go home. First objective. The pay is second, the raise is second, the arrests are second, the promotions are second. The most important thing is going home. But I also knew that on any given day, I might not go home. Right?
That one is for any human being, because even you can, it's not about the risk is the same.
Well,
you can be walking here and be knocked by a vehicle.
Sure, you're right. Yes, and in fact,
your day have reached.
right. In fact, the Bible says life is a vapor.
Just about vapor.
In a sense, we're here today, gone tomorrow. But, and while it's true that we can die, anyone can die on any given moment, there are some jobs that are more dangerous than others. Would you not? Because we're over here at the optician, getting a young lady some new glasses. That optician's job is not as dangerous as yours. Sure, someone could come in and rob her and end her life on any given day.
Kenya, we are not at war.
What's that?
Kenya, we are not at war.
Well,
We are not at
sure,
war.
yeah.
Sure, war it is at Ukraine, whereby now it's about your God. You can go and never come back.
True.
See,
Yes.
it's not at war.
Right.
So there is
I would say, my friend, that there is a war going on all around us. Whether our countries are firing bombs and missiles at each other or not, there is a spiritual war going on around us. So let me ask you this, James. What do you think is more important? What we believe, or whether or not what we believe is true? Which would you say is more important? What we believe, or what we believe is true?
What is believed is true, because
I agree.
That is what is giving us existence and giving us motivation in life. That's what
I agree with you that what's more important is what we believe is true. So this is my friend Stephen Ouma, and if I walked up to you and I said, "Hi, my name is Tony," and people call me Baba Michelle, right? My oldest daughter's name is Michelle. I'd like you to meet my daughter Michelle. I believe it with all my heart. Would it ever be true? It would never be true. This is a adult man by the name of Ouma, of Stephen Okongo.
I'm black.
Well, I have 2 black granddaughters, so that doesn't mean anything. But this is clearly a man. He's obviously not my daughter. Doesn't matter what I believe, right? So let's say I walked into this bank and I have an account here. And I decide that I'm going to take $1 million US out of my bank account. I believe I have $1 million. So I walk into the bank, I fill out the slip to make the withdrawal. The teller looks at it. That doesn't happen every day. $1 million US? What is that in shillings? What is $1 million US?
Multiplied
by
by
100. I think
So 100 million.
multiplied by 120.
So 120. So I'm going to ask for 120 million shillings. So the teller behind the counter is what do you call someone who works at a bank? We call them tellers. Teller? Teller? Okay. So the teller looks at the slip, her eyes get real big, but I put the account number down, and so she punches in the number, and my account says that I have 100 shillings in my account. So she looks at me and she says, you know, Miano, I can't give you 120 million shillings. You have 100 shillings in your account. No, I believe I have 120 million. I want my money now. And I argue with her. Before long, she's calling you inside because she thinks I'm trying to rob the bank. It doesn't matter what I believe about what's in my bank account. What matters is what's true about my bank account, right? Same is true with God. It doesn't matter what any of us believe about God. What matters is what's true about God. God has created us, not like the animals. He's created us, all of us humans, in His image. He's given us a conscience. My dog back home doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. She pees, she poops, she eats, she wants to get petted, but she doesn't know it's wrong to lie or wrong to steal or anything like that. She doesn't know. She doesn't know that's wrong. But we do, because God's given us a conscience, right? Every human being knows that God exists, right? Some foolish people say, there is no God. That would be like me saying, well, no one built this building. It just happened over time. You know, over millions of years, the glass and the metal and the stucco and the wood, and that just formed over time. It'd be like me going into your garage and seeing a Mercedes and saying, that was just a scrap of metal millions of years ago. That was just a pile of rust. And over time it became a Mercedes. That's silly. Every human being knows that God exists. And because of that, we know the difference between right and wrong. We know it's wrong to lie. We know it's wrong to steal. We know it's wrong to hate other people. We know those things because the God who created us wrote those laws, those truths, on our heart. So this God who created us, He is the judge of the universe. And we can say that we know this because He has given us His word. He's given us the Bible. We can look at that book and we can know who God is. We can know who we are. We can know what God expects of us. We can know what our problem is, which is sin, and we can know how that could be forgiven. Okay? So this God who created us, He's the judge of the universe. One day we're all going to die. Maybe it's of old age. Maybe it's of cancer. Maybe it's the victim of a crime. Maybe it's while being a hero trying to save somebody. But we're all going to die someday. Everybody's going to die. When we die, we're going to stand before this judge. And He's going to judge us not by how I compare myself to you or how you compare yourself to me. He's going to judge us according to that law. Okay? Now you men, being police officers, you've probably been in courtrooms before, right? Had to testify in cases, things like that. We had a president in our country named Abraham Lincoln. Have you heard that name? Abraham Lincoln? He once said this. He said, any man who goes into court to defend himself has a fool for a client. See, in our country, someone could go into court and defend themselves. They don't have to have a lawyer. And they never win. They think they're going to convince the judge that they're innocent when they know they're guilty. And so they have a fool for a client. They're representing themselves. So let's say my friend Ooma here, Stephen, let's say Stephen tries to rob this bank. What a fool, right? We have two officers here protecting the bank. So he gets caught. Fortunately, he doesn't die. You take him to jail. He confesses. He admits to the crime. That confession doesn't show his innocence. That confession shows his guilt, right? So it's the day of sentencing, and the judge, see you, James, and the judge looks at my friend Stephen and says, I find you guilty, and I sentence you to death for your crime. Is there a death penalty in Kenya? Is there a death penalty? Can someone receive a death penalty in Kenya?
Yes.
Yeah, they can in the United States too.
No.
Not yet. You can do over the counter. You can do over the counter. ATM
Over the counter.
Over the counter.
You can do it over the counter.
Credit card? You got a debit card?
You can just get this madam, then she will explain to you.
So we have the death penalty in the United States too. Not in every state, but in some of the states. So the judge orders my friend Stephen to suffer death for trying to rob this bank. So they're going to take him into the next room and they're going to stick a needle in his arm and they're going to put him to sleep like a stray dog. But before that happens, James, the judge who had the authority to find him guilty and had the authority to sentence him to death stands up from behind his seat, his bench. He takes off those black robes of authority. Do they wear black robes in Kenyan court? Do they wear, the judges, do they wear black robes, or do they wear something that tells everybody I'm the judge? Yeah, are they like black robes? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So the judge takes off those robes of authority. He steps down. He comes over to Stephen and he says, Stephen, you're guilty and you deserve to die for your crime, and I'm going to take your place. And the judge goes into the next room and allows a needle to be put into his arm that was meant for Stephen. Not because Stephen's good, not because Stephen's innocent. He broke the law, that's why he's here. But because the judge chose to show love and mercy to him. But the judge couldn't just let him go. A penalty had to be paid for the crime that was committed, right? So this judge decides to pay the penalty for him. And he lets him go, not because he's good, not because he's innocent, but because the judge chose to show love to this man. So what would you think of a judge? This is your case, right? You're the arresting officer.
Yeah, but you need.
I'm coming.
No, okay, I'm fine. Yeah. And if I'm keeping you from anything, you let me know, because I don't want to interrupt your work. Okay. But James, what would you think if you arrested Stephen for trying to rob the bank? The judge sentenced him to death, and instead of him dying, the judge dies in his place. What would you think of that judge?
My wife, for the judge is different. I will arrest him. We investigate. We take him to court. Now we hand over to the judge.
Yes.
So if the judge get him guilty, he will be penalty. If we get him not guilty, we set him free.
Right. So, but in this case, though, the judge takes the death penalty on himself. The judge dies instead of this guy. What would you think of a judge who did that? Crazy?
Can you ask that question again?
Sure. Okay. So in this scenario, in this scene that I'm painting, my friend who is here, he tries to rob the bank. You arrest him, right? Fortunately, he doesn't have a gun on him or something. You didn't have to shoot him. You were able to just take him into custody. He stands trial. He's found guilty. The judge sentences him to death for trying to rob the bank. But before they put him to death, the judge, who found him guilty and who has the authority to sentence him to death, steps down from behind his bench, his high seat, takes off those black robes of authority that he wears. He walks over to this man who he found guilty and sentenced to die, and he says, "You are guilty, you do deserve to die, and I'm going to take your place." And the judge allows himself to be executed for the crime that he committed. And he sets him free. Not because he's good, he's not. Tried to rob a bank. Not because he's innocent, he's admitted to the guilt.
But there is no day. That one can never happen.
Ah, but it has, my friend. Maybe not in a human courtroom. Maybe not in a human courtroom, but it has.
You know everybody. I've taken an oath.
Sure.
Even the judge, take an oath
Yes.
of safeguarding
Sure.
lives of others. So,
Yeah.
and the first thing, he gives the rules that are being guided
Mhm.
everywhere.
Yes.
You cannot go to take a punishment of another person. You are not God, or you are not Jesus.
I love what you just said. We're not God. But what I just the picture I just painted, James, is a picture of what God actually did.
Yes.
God the Father sent his Son to earth in the person of Jesus Christ, truly God, truly man, without sin. Unlike us who break the law of God, every day, either in our thoughts or with our words or with our actions, Jesus, God in the flesh, never broke the law. Yet, even though he knew no sin, he voluntarily went to this Roman cross. He died a death he did not deserve to take upon himself the punishment we rightly deserve for the crimes that we've committed against God. He takes the place. And then he dies on that cross, he's buried, and then 3 days later he rises from the grave. What God requires of us, and this is true because God has said it, what God requires of us is that we receive that gift, that we turn from our sin and we put our trust in Jesus alone for our salvation. And if that happened, not just simply believing in our head, because the Bible says the demons believe and tremble, right? But believe in our heart to the point that we actually want to put our trust in Jesus for our salvation. He'll forgive our sin, and we'll be reconciled to God forever, and we'll have the gift of eternal life, not because we're good, but because of the goodness of God that would allow his Son to die for sinners like us. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah? Yeah. Yeah. How long are your shifts? Like 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours?
It depends the strength that you have. Some areas, 8 hours, 12 hours.
How many hours do you work a week?
About by 12 times 6.
So you're working 72 hours a week. 12 times 6. Wow. That is a lot of hours. It's a lot of hours. So the part of Kenya that I'm in right now, is this a high crime area, a low crime area, somewhere in between?
These are a low area.
Low crime area? Yeah.
Because there's the kind of sin, there are very few.
Yeah.
Maybe in a week once. But it depends with the kind of crime. The petty crime. The petty crimes don't lack everywhere.
Yeah.
No serious crime.
So it's rare for serious crime around here. Yeah. Okay. Well, I've taken up enough of your time. I'm grateful. I'm thankful to meet both of you. And I wish you God's best. And I'll be praying for you both. You both stay safe. All right. God bless you, man.